Hey guys, it's Britt. Tonight we're here to talk about Therapyjessa. She is pretty popular TikToker and she is under a lot of scrutiny and criticism that is deserved in my opinion, but we're going to talk all about it. So if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys. So Therapyjessa has 385,000 followers on TikTok as of me filming this video, and her bio has been recently updated to say licensed mental health counselor associate. The associate part is a newer addition because there for a while she just had the letter A in her bio, and it was making people think that she was fully licensed mental health counselor when she is an associate, which is totally fine, but let's not lie about titles when you are giving people mental health advice and putting out a lot of very questionable information. Now, before we get into this video, no, I am not a therapist, but I am somebody who cares about people who struggle with mental health. And I think that because of financial restrictions, a lot of times what I've seen is people that are struggling with their mental health will go to apps like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube and seek out people who put it out as if they are qualified to be giving advice in order to kind of try to figure out, what do I do with these feelings? Because maybe they can't pay for a therapist, maybe they don't have health insurance at the moment, and people that are struggling coming to social media for advice is a very risky thing, but I also understand why a lot of people do it. So her, in my opinion, misusing her platform is a really big deal, and that's why I'm talking about it. I am going to drop a few videos throughout mine from people that are qualified and are full-on licensed therapists so that they can share their opinions about this situation. But I want to share the video that came on my radar first. She came out with this video a couple days ago. It says, "Things I do that make me a good therapist." And she claims that it's not a flex. In her caption, she says, "I promise this isn't a flex. The nature of my work is so heavy and people ask how I do it, so I'm explaining. You can do all of these, by the way." That's not true. We're going to get into her list and I will insert my comments throughout.
Things I do outside of the therapy room that make me a good therapist. I go to therapy on Wednesdays.
Therapy as a therapist, I think is wonderful. No issue.
I haven't drank in 2 years. I've practiced being good at saving money so that I'm not starving for clients and not only getting clients so that I can make ends meet.
So you're really good with money. I would say that that's kind of a flex if you're saying, well, I don't really need clients. I'm just doing this because I want to help people, but I don't need clients. Okay, whatever.
My passion is this, and I'm doing this, which brings me happiness and makes me a better therapist.
By the way, her not drinking has nothing to do with how she's able to interact with people during her day job. If you are, doing therapy 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, not drinking unless you have a problem and you have some kind of addiction or unhealthy relationship with alcohol, therapists who have a glass of wine or a couple of drinks after dinner, I don't think that that has any difference. Like if I was in the market for a new therapist, I would not say, oh, well, this person doesn't drink and this person does, so I'm going to go with the therapist that doesn't drink. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I look at, what are someone's qualifications? What's their personality like? What are our conversations like? Sometimes finding a therapist, and I found this out firsthand, is sometimes it's hit and miss, and you have to go to a couple therapists before you find the one that is right for you, and that is okay.
Don't eat processed sugar or processed food because 90% of the neurotransmitters responsible for serotonin are located in your gut. I go for walks in nature.
Okay, so I don't eat junk food. I don't eat sugar. I don't da-da-da-da. That has nothing to do with being a good therapist. And on top of it, let's also talk about not everybody has the money to not eat processed foods. That has a lot to do with what is your money situation. Are you living paycheck to paycheck or worse? I've been there. I've been there where, it's even worse than paycheck to paycheck. And that is okay. If what your financial situation allows you to do is eat processed foods, that is better than starving yourself. So the processed foods and that kind of stuff, like I'm going to go through some of these comments when she's done, but very, very privileged kind of vibe to this video. Very much I am better than other therapists. I am better than everyone else because these are the things that I do.
I go for walks in nature, even though I live in Seattle and it rains all the time. I wish I could say I meditate daily, but I meditate like 4 or 5 days a week, but several times throughout the day. I listen to podcasts from people who inspire me. I read all the time. I don't watch any trash TV, any reality TV, anything that's a distraction or numbing. I practice yoga nearly daily. I wish I could.
Listen, sometimes watching reality TV is someone's form of self-care. And if that's your form of self-care, that is okay. There is nothing wrong with sitting on the couch with a pint of ice cream, watching some reality TV, if that is what makes you feel good at the end of a really long, crazy, hectic day. Let's stop shaming people for watching a certain type of TV. Like who cares? If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But let's not make it like I don't do this, so I am better than somebody who does do this.
I say I journal every day, but I journal pretty much every day. I don't think I know everything, and I'm always looking to learn more. I'm aware of my traumas, my triggers.
She's not looking to learn more because she has been called out so many times especially over the last month or so, about some of the dangerous content that she is putting out there that could negatively impact people that are struggling with their own mental health. And now she has turned around and said that she is being bullied. Typical influencer response. Oh, now I'm being bullied because people are calling me out for really shady practices as a quote therapist.
And my biases. I know a lot of people from a lot of cultures, which is extremely important in this work. If you're a therapist and your community looks a lot like you, there are courses you can take on multicultural practices. I don't know everything. That's so important. I don't know everything. I don't even know a lot. Be humble. Even though I'm humble, I'm a pretty good therapist.
Wellness supremacy. Wellness supremacy pipeline vibes. I completely agree with some of the people in the comments. Someone else said shadow elitism, idealism, perfectionism, followed up with a cleanup of disingenuous humility. Creator makes a video implying they're better than people who can't do a list of unrealistic things and ends to say, I'm humble. I feel like you're the therapist that would judge me for eating a hot Cheeto. This feels like a parody. All these things make you an unrelatable therapist. This is giving Gwyneth Paltrow. You're literally the type of therapist that made me stop going to therapy until I found someone willing to decolonize with me instead of this. It's giving goop.
Them the kind of girls I went to grad school with. Them also the kind of girls I don't fool with no more. Because when you try to call them in and explain to them how this behavior is harmful and how it's completely egregious and how it's steeped in white supremacy, they are offended and insulted. I saw one of my mutuals trying to explain this in her comment section, and she was insulted in all capital letters. And it's like, you don't get it. You don't want to get it. You refuse to get it. This is an example of willful ignorance. And this is why I say, being a therapist does not exempt you from misbehavior. Make sure you're vetting the people that you are entrusting your mental health to. I try not to be on my own like professionals, but this is ridiculous.
So a lot of different people have stitched this video, including actual licensed therapists, and the video is still up. It's still up on her page, and a lot of her videos just come off as very much know-it-all. She says that she doesn't know it all, but the vibe that I get from just a normal, I always call myself an internet idiot. I feel very put off by her content, and I don't feel like this is somebody that I would ever want to take advice from, because I feel like, it's funny. Some people say that I judge people, and maybe I judge some things that people would disagree with. That's fine. But as a commentary channel, I feel like I'm pretty fair.
Things I do outside of the therapy room that make me a good therapist. I don't eat processed sugar or I read all the time. I don't watch any trash TV, any reality TV.
That's great, and I'm really glad those things work for you, but I also want to tell you what makes me a better therapist. I also go to therapy, and in my own therapy journey, I have learned the hard way. It is a very hard process, and I have so much empathy for my clients in the journey that we go on together. I love comfort food. Ice cream, chocolate, my favorite food is French fries. I believe in eating food that you enjoy and that makes you feel good. I'd love to say I exercise, but in reality, I just take my dog on a few walks and do 10 sit-ups a week, because I listen to my mental and physical capacity, and I honor that. I love to distract and binge watch some trash TV. It's weirdly one of my favorite self-care strategies. Because being a therapist is amazing, and you get to walk alongside individuals, helping hold their wounds with them. But honestly, that can get heavy, and I just need to sometimes zone out and enjoy a good hour or 4 of nothingness. As long as that is paired with other self-care strategies and is not fully used to avoid, there's nothing wrong with it. I have an amazing community as a therapist that keeps me both honest and accountable. I actually run a therapist consultation group for therapists in my area that's completely free, and a bunch of therapists just get together and discuss how we can be more ethical and better fit therapists for our clients. I take a butt ton of trainings. My specialty is in trauma, so I take most of my trainings rooted in that. But trauma is not one size fits all, so I've actually had to adapt a lot of my learning to expand into other areas that I never thought I'd step foot in. And what really makes me a better therapist is when I am not able to help that client for whatever reason, I'm able to refer them to someone who does, because I know my limits as a clinician. I'm not the right fit for everyone, and that's okay. There's a lot of other things I do to help stay ethical and be the best fit for the clients that do work with me. And while I love to label myself as a good therapist, all I can say is these are things I do to better myself as a therapist every single day. But the number one thing I do to make myself become a better therapist is find balance. You can do everything Jessa does and it work for you. Or you could do something completely different, similar to my lifestyle, and it still work for you great. However, neither work if you do not have balance with it. Balance includes boundaries, both for yourself and clients. It includes everything in moderation. It includes giving yourself grace when you do not follow that lifestyle, or ways to make yourself a better therapist every single day. This is not intended to be hate towards that creator, but just a friendly reminder to anyone who's been watching both of our content. There's not just one way to be a good therapist. And there's not one way to be a good client either. Show up as you are, continue to do work on yourself, and find the balance. That is enough.
So she put out this other TikTok that a lot of people are talking about, and it says the hardest sentences to hear as a therapist are, quote, "I want to unalive. The depression gotten worse. The depression gotten worse." That's very poorly written. "I can't afford therapy anymore." All of these things are your job.
I'm wondering how this is different than the video that she posted on April 17th, talking about how when a client discloses that they want to harm themselves, that if it's negative for therapists to react poorly, which I agree with. But posting this video in a public space, especially advertising yourself as a therapist who supposedly gives advice to other therapists and clients, to say, like, it's the hardest thing I could hear as a therapist is that someone wants to hurt themselves. Isn't that the same thing? Like, dissuading a client from disclosing their level of risk? Just wondering. Also, that's what supervision is for. Also, that's like why people do peer supervision, is so that they can talk about these things. There are things that are difficult about being a therapist, but talking about them publicly makes it harder for them to engage in therapy.
If this is what you love to do and you love your job so much, then you know what you're signing up for. And I don't think that painting a picture like hearing really hard things is a burden for you. How do you think that it feels for the person that are having those thoughts? How do you think they feel? That's my question. sorry that you have to hear that as a therapist. Completely ridiculous. So Jessa has responded to some of the creators via comments, and this one says, I was just explaining what I do in my day-to-day life. Please don't insult my spirituality in the future. It honestly made my heart sink. So I will play this video for you guys. Creators who respond to Jessa are called bullies.
So it took me a minute to decide if I was going to respond to this comment that Jessa had posed that I was attacking her spirituality. You can even tell my cheeks are a little red because I am pretty upset. This did activate me or trigger me, if you want to say. And first, I'm just going to pull a little bit from some compassion. And I know, Jessa, you're familiar with compassion work. And within that, there is the want from wanting others to not suffer. Literally, people are telling you over and over that this is causing harm, that they are literally suffering. And you choose to completely bypass everything that was said, but play the victim, which that's a familiar narrative, that I am insulting your spirituality. Which lets me know you took time to see that post, like it, and respond with this. And guess what happens? This flips the script that I'm becoming the angry person. I am becoming the mean girl. I am channeling bully energy. But the reality is, I literally tried to offer you the most compassionate and kindest perspective. And at this point, what is said has been said, and good luck trying to repair, because I think at this point, more harm has been done.
And this is just so fucking tired. Like, I'm so tired of anyone who has, not positive things to say about somebody's content. They're called a bully. It's called, you're a mean girl. You're judging. You're making somebody's life harder than it needs to be. Like, listen, if you don't want people to have an opinion about you, keep it off the internet.
Oh yeah, I'm joining this conversation. This has been a long time coming, and now is the right time to share my thoughts on this. Jessa, you're not being bullied, as you posted on your story yesterday, which I will share. I've never been bullied to this scale. You're not being bullied, sweetie. You are being held accountable for how wildly inappropriate you have been and unethical you have been the entire time you have been on this platform. For months, you have been called out for the way that you incredibly unethically perform therapy on your lives. I have witnessed your lives when you have encouraged clients to tap into their trauma and tap into parts of themselves that are extremely triggering. When you have no rapport with them, you have built no relationship with them, you don't even know their names. And now you create this content where you're talking about what makes you a good therapist. And yes, your own self-care practices, that's great. That's great that you have them. But that is not the context in which you shared that information. You shared that information presenting yourself as better than other therapists because you choose to not eat sugar or drink alcohol. That literally does not matter. It does not matter. And furthermore, unless you want to have a very specific demographic in which you serve, presenting with all the privileges and opportunities that you have separates yourself from being able to be relatable to clients that will never have that opportunity or chance. I highly suggest that if while you're listening to all these podcasts and reading all these educational books, you seek information and you seek to be educated and learn from fellow therapists of color and different individuals that can help you recognize and check your own privilege and humble yourself so you can in fact be a better practitioner. And furthermore, please state that you are not fully licensed. You have a preliminary license and you are working under a supervisor, which means that you still have a lot to learn and you're still going to make mistakes like this. So please learn from this mistake, stop taking the victim's position, and recognize we're not bullying you. We want you to do better.
I've said many times, It is so easy to segregate your content. If you are putting stuff out onto the internet and you make that part of what you want to do and that's what you love to do, I think that's amazing. But it does not take a fucking rocket scientist to remember that, hey, if I put this out there, then people are going to have an opinion about it. So if this is something that's really close to my heart, or I want to keep it protected, or I don't want people giving their opinions about it, then maybe I should keep it offline. Jessa has decided to put herself as an elite option, and she is the good therapist. She is the better choice. She is not drinking, no sugar, no junk food. And sentences like, I want to unalive, just, make her go off the edge. Like, you have made a pretty big name for yourself by putting out some pretty dangerous content. And now people are catching on to it and they're giving their opinions about it. And people, as they will when you're on the internet, are also calling your credentials into question because you were falsely advertising who you are and what you can actually do.
I am bent out of shape about what this woman calls herself, because when you put harmful...
This entire situation is bizarre to me as someone who is directly responsible for licensing mental health professionals. If you don't know what's going on, there's this whole controversy with Therapyjessa, which is a page here on TikTok, which branded themselves as being a licensed mental health professional. It was revealed that no, they're not fully licensed. They're operating under a provisional license. And I know some people would be like, well, it's still a license. Why does it matter? It's a big difference. I used to work for New York State Education Department. I worked in the state board offices for mental health professionals. So I was overseeing already licensed, mental health counselors, marriage family therapists, licensed clinical social workers, and licensed mental social workers, as well as psychologists and psychoanalysts. And then I worked in comparative education where we were reviewing educational transcripts, examination, experience requirements, all that to make sure that they were good to go get licensed. And provisional licenses are given for special circumstances, at least in New York. It really happens because the examination schedules are very wonky. They don't happen that often and not that close together. And so sometimes prospective licensees are not able to get that final part that they need to get their full license. They also do this for like some of the science-based licenses, like clinical lab technology. I saw provisional licenses given out as well. The way that a provisional license works, you are allowed to practice under the direct and immediate supervision of an already licensed professional in that field. You are only allowed to work in a set site location so that if there are any issues with malpractice, it's easy to trace like what patients you were working with directly. And you're definitely not allowed to practice outside of state lines, which would include telehealth services where you're providing therapy to people through like technology, the phone, or even social media. The fact that people are trying to just be like, oh, well, she still has it. No, this was specifically put in place so that somebody who's not fully eligible to practice could still carry out their other requirements for full licensure while being monitored so that the public stays safe. State boards for licenses are to ensure that professionals don't mistreat the people that they are serving. And so I can't speak to what it's like being an associate mental health professional and, being looked at as less than because you don't have the full license. But I can speak to having members of the public call in because they feel violated by something that a professional did to them. I can speak to what it's like to having a person call and say, what do I do? This has gone on and I feel like I have no power, and then realizing, no, they actually do have rights. Because regulations about who's allowed to practice and who isn't allowed to practice, it is legally mandated and regulated. We don't just give licenses to anyone just because they went to school and got a degree out of it. So yeah, you're messing with people's livelihood, you're messing with the law, and if you're in a similar circumstance, just be fully transparent. Be fully transparent.
She also put out this video that I thought was just so stupid, where she wants to teach people how to use psychology to make them fall in love with you. This is stupid.
How to make somebody fall in love with you using psychology.
Number 2, I can't make anybody fall in love with anybody else.
In 1977, Dr. Arthur Aaron conducted a study where he took a man and a woman, 2 complete strangers, and had them answer 36 questions back and forth to each other, and then do something else that I'll explain later. These people were complete strangers. They got married 6 months later. Questions are divided into 3 sections, and each one gets a little bit more intimate and personal. and I'm going to provide you the questions, but use them wisely. And after the 36th question, there is a little something else you have to do the study completely.
How about if somebody doesn't like you for who you are, then move on to the next option. If somebody is not willing to work with what they see, like, I'm not going to trick you to make you like me. I don't need to play mind games to make somebody want to go on a date. Like, that is just so weird. It's so strange. Like, I would not know how to function in that type of atmosphere, because if you don't, if you're not here for who I am, then I don't need you in my life. And maybe that's why my damn circle is so small, but I keep it moving. I don't have time for people like this, and I'm not here to trick anybody into being in my life. But I think the lesson in me coming across Jessa's content is just, you have to be really careful when you're in a place where you're seeking out some mental health guidance and wanting to maybe have your feelings validated on social media. Think about who it is that you're actually going to for direction and advice and having questions answered, because there are people that literally use hashtag mental health as a way to build their brand, and they are not even qualified to be giving the advice that they're giving. And that is really, really scary. I find the kind of crossroads of ethics and social media to be something that is going to be a growing conversation over the next, year to 2 years to 5 years. Because there are a lot of doctors, nurses, mental health clinicians who want to be on social media. But how do you have a social media presence and actually have things to talk about while you're delivering content without overstepping the line and potentially giving somebody advice that could completely alter the mental state that they're in, make themselves feel very bad about, how they're thinking? She has made fun of people with manic episodes and going through mania.
I am dead inside.
I understand that being a mental health professional on social media is kind of a whole new world of ethics that we are all having to navigate. But making silly little joke videos that are making light of mania, especially when mania is often a pretty traumatic and terrifying and dangerous experience, feels like a pretty clear no to me.
I sympathize with those who have mental health issues, but they don't have health insurance and they don't have the extra money to be able to pay for a therapist out of pocket. I understand how frustrating that can be, and I've been there. I've gone long periods of my life without having health insurance, and it is unsettling and really scary. So social media can kind of be a double-edged sword for those people. And I would also just say that from the one thing that I can say from direct personal experience is, if you are seeing a therapist and you feel like you're not clicking with them, or you're just not sure how it's going to work out for you, do a little trial and error. Find 2 or 3 different therapists and then go to all of them and see whose personality you like the most. And having a little trial and error is nothing to be ashamed about or embarrassed about or get frustrated with. It is totally okay. And be really careful who you're taking advice from on the internet. And as far as Jessa goes, girl, you're not being bullied. People who have the qualifications are frustrated and they are calling you out on your BS. So you're not being bullied. Stop being like every other influencer and pull the damn bullying card just because people are calling you into question based on your own content and your own questionable behavior on a very public platform. So either way, that's enough rambling for today. If you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.